happening here. Maybe having the same attitude about books as friend makers is a friend maker in itself. When I first moved to Seattle in 1993, people often asked me if I knew a woman named Marilyn Dahl. Our paths hadn't yet crossed, somewhat surprisingly, because she was also active in Seattle's not-so-large literary community. When I finally did meet her, I liked her immediately. She was about my age and a reader. What more need be said? But when I got an email from her, the friendship was irrevocably sealed because, following her signature, was this quotation from The Last Night at the Ritz. "It is very dangerous to get caught without something to read." Wow. When I saw that, I realized that I'd never known anyone else who'd read The Last Night at the Ritz, except those friends I'd given it to. And now this woman whom I'd just met had not only read the novel, but included a quote from it in all of her emails. I immediately felt especially close to this woman I barely knew, all because we loved the same novel. One of my favorite elements in The Last Night at the Ritz is the portrayal of the long-time, close, and enduring relationship that the unnamed narrator has with her best friend, Gay. It's a friendship that began in college and now, more than a quarter of a century later, still continues, as strong as ever, having withstood distance, secrets, time, and betrayal. Tolerance, disapproval, forgiveness, and understanding are all woven into the close connection between these two characters. Indeed, without those, the friendship most likely wouldn't have endured. Perhaps it's the sort of friendship that only exists in novels, but I really don't think so, although I've not been fortunate enough to have, or have had, that sort of friend myself. No offense intended to my husband of 40-plus years, but as I think the long married out there will agree, spouses are in an entirely different category. Published in 1973 and set in the late 1960s, Elizabeth Savage's fifth novel, The Last Night at the Ritz, is both intensely of its time and also, in important ways, absolutely timeless. The action takes place over the course of one day as four old friends get together at the Ritz Carlton in Boston to drink the afternoon away. I think that it speaks most clearly and meaningfully to women, yet one of its earliest very positive reviews came from Martin Levin, writing in the August 19, 1973 issue of the New York Times, who praised the novel's interplay of past and present as a pure delight, and went on to describe how the nostalgic aura surrounding these happenings is strong enough to make Elizabeth Savage's novel glow in the dark. An unsigned review in the November 19, 1973 issue of Time begins by placing the novel in the genre of women's fiction. Some things never change. Nearly 40 years later, Meg Wolitzer wrote in the March 30, 2012 issue of the New York Times Book Review that labeling non-genre novels by female writers as women's fiction condemns them to being a lower class of literature than non-genre novels by men. But the reviewer, and how I wish I knew if it had been a man or a woman, then concludes, but in a very short compass, with extraordinary deftness, humor, and a rueful shrewdness edging toward wisdom, it rises above genre to something not unlike small genius. Small genius indeed. I'm not quite sure how to take that. Elizabeth Savage, who was born in 1918, was my mother's age, and in The Last Night at the Ritz, she was writing about women of her own generation. These women attended college just prior to World War II. They married veterans and had their children in the late 1940s and early 1950s, the baby boomers of today, me among them. And all the benefits that society offered the women of my generation were pretty much denied to our mothers. The effect of Betty Friedan's 1963 classic, The Feminine Mystique, on the women's movement was just beginning to be felt in the late 1960s. Legal abortion was not yet an option.